when you have walked through the fire,
Mhm.
it's not from the mind anymore, right? It becomes embodied wisdom. And that's when you can actually be of service and help other people. And we're going towards a tipping point here. We
Yeah.
need everybody on board who is ready to let go of what isn't real and what isn't true anymore, who's ready to step out of the matrix, the imposition on our spirit, on our soul, on our light, on who we are, and the many forms that that takes.
Welcome, radiant light beings, to the Freebie Portal channel. Today's episode is one I know will be extraordinary because of the person joining me and because of the profound lived journey she carries. I've been eagerly looking forward to this conversation as it brings together artistry, heroic courage, and an uncompromising commitment to truth. I'm truly honored to be joined by Claire Lautier, a facilitator, mentor, storyteller, guide, and fierce advocate for spiritual sovereignty and authentic living. Claire's journey is remarkably transformative. She trained at the Juilliard School in New York and performed as an actor and singer with the renowned Stratford Festival in Ontario for many seasons, where Shakespeare's language is not just spoken, but embodied. This environment requires intense presence, profound emotional depth, and a strong grasp of the human mind, qualities that have influenced all aspects of Claire's work. However, as often happens with those who truly listen to life, the Stratford stage eventually became too small for the questions that demanded answers and the answers to be shared with others. What followed was not simply a career change, but a profound inner initiation born of an enigmatic calling, one that would carry Claire through identity unraveling and infinite inner alchemy to reclaim her inner authority. What emerged was a clear and powerful mission to help others awaken from distortion, reclaim their voice, and remember the truth of who they are at the deepest level. Through her work, whether in her signature offerings, Exit the Matrix and Return to Radiance, or in her contemplative space, Grace Space, Claire invites people into a field where simplicity becomes a portal, sovereignty becomes a lived experience, and the body itself speaks with wisdom and clarity. Claire's work is not about fixing what's wrong, but rather remembering what's always been real. Today's conversation is for anyone who's felt that quiet stirring inside, that inner pull toward truth, freedom, and coherence, and who senses the old ways of performing, pleasing, or bypassing no longer suffice. This is not a performance, it's a meeting of minds and hearts. So, if it aligns with you, settle in, open your heart, and prepare to be inspired because this is a conversation that invites you to come home to yourself. So, welcome, Claire.
Wow. Thanks. Thanks, Renata. What a space to come into after that introduction.
Well, you deserve every word of it, my dear. You really do. I'm in awe of your journey. So let's begin. You began your professional life as an actor with the renowned Stratford Festival, performing many Shakespearean roles. So, was working with Shakespeare something you always knew you were aiming for? And how did inhabiting those archetypal characters shape your understanding of human nature, presence, and truth?
That's a very complete question. Well, I didn't actually begin my career in Stratford. I was living in the US. I mean, I'm American by origin, half American, half French. I'm also Canadian.
Oh,
I have three passports. It's crazy.
oh,
Um,
wonderful.
but I was in New York for a long time before I ended up in Stratford, and that was kind of a fated thing, I guess, because when I was an undergrad at Duke University, before I went off to Juilliard, I was part of a short-lived but powerful drama program at the undergraduate level. It was kind of a conservatory level program in this kind of Ivy League type university in the United States. And for just a perfect storm of about 3 or 4 years, there was an amazing program there. And they had gotten people from really powerful teachers. And so I kind of grew up in my college years in an environment where I was being prepared to be a transformational actor, somebody who can move from one medium to another, who understands language, I mean, that was already I was built that way from the get-go, but that was also what I loved. I wanted to be able to do contemporary plays. I wanted to be able to do film and television, but I also wanted to be able to hold my own on a stage and, embody and transmit something much bigger than me. So when I was at Duke in undergrad, I used to sometimes go and sit in the office of one of my drama teachers and talk about life and stuff, and he would tell me to breathe and find my feet.
Ah,
As I guess I was living in a perpetual state of shoulders up around the ears and not grounded and, anxious, a young person. And he had a bookshelf there. And one time I was leafing through some stuff on his bookshelf and I found a program from the Stratford Festival. And I was looking at it and he goes, that's where you belong, Lautier. He said, that's where you should go. That's where you should be. And I was like, what is this? He
hmm.
said, Stratford Festival in Canada. And I was like, oh yeah, Canada, that's north. That's about all I knew about Canada in those days.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. He's like, this is the number one festival for Shakespeare and the classics in the world, and that's where you belong. And I was like, okay, but I
Mm,
had no idea how I was ever going to get to Canada. It was like a kind of vague thing in the back of my mind.
mm,
Years later, when I ended up at Stratford, um, and this was due to the fact that I had gotten together with somebody who had been a Stratford actor, and we went back there, and he went into the company. I ended up going into the company too. Um, but I realized that that program that I was looking at in the 80s had to have been a program that contained pictures of him because that's when he was there. And I remembered when I met the man who became my husband. When I met him, I recognized him. And I think it was more than just spiritual recognition. I think it was
mm.
also, I've seen that guy.
Yeah, I know that guy.
And then I saw a picture of him at the Stratford Festival playing Pericles as a young actor. And I was like, that's the picture that I saw in that program.
Mm,
So I had been looking at him, looking at the future, looking at something that I didn't even know how or where or what, how that was going to happen. And I ended up at Stratford years later with the guy I saw in the program. And
yeah.
and then, I ended up living in Stratford for 13 years, and being part of that company was a great privilege, a great honor, and I was, lucky enough to play some great roles there. I mean, when I was leaving Juilliard, the director of the program there, I received a couple of awards, and one thing he said was, "You'll play the great roles,"
Mm,
and I always wanted to play the great roles. But given what I do now, I mean, it's interesting because you and I talked about this once before. I kind of feel like being an actor was the easy way out for me, and I
yes.
know that may sound ridiculous to people for whom that is like a world that seems really strange and uncertain, and it certainly was a lifestyle where you never knew what was coming next. There was no stability. There was no, the Stratford Festival was the closest thing I ever experienced to stability in an actor's life. But my life has always been unconventional. I've never had a regular job. I've never, done anything except for kind of just follow where it felt right to go and to be and to do. But being an actor was something that was very familiar to me. I really kind of felt like I already knew. I never I never studied scripts. I
Mm,
I I had almost instant memory of
mm,
lines and stuff like that. I lived on stage very easily. I had no self-consciousness on stage.
mm.
So I think I was coming from many lifetimes of
Oh
having
yeah,
done that kind of thing.
100%.
And I could just kind of do that and not have to work too hard. And then maybe that sounds strange, but what it allowed me to do for 25 years, which is basically the span of my career
Mm,
as an actor officially, was to learn to become more present, to learn to narrow my focus to the moment that I was in, to shut out distractions. It prepared me to, it prepared me for the yogic work that I later went into very deeply. And when I was an actor, I was really only concerned with my next job. I
mm.
was really only concerned with my career, my success or lack thereof, whether I, was on a trajectory that was going to lead to where I thought I was going to feel good about myself and fulfill my quote unquote destiny as an artist and achieve a certain level of recognition and all of that stuff. That was what I was really obsessed with in my life as an actor. Although I always had like a parallel spiritual life and pursuit of, again, pursuit being the operative
Yes,
word
yes.
of the spiritual at that time. It was always a parallel track. But I was really living in a different paradigm. I was living in a paradigm of, service to me. And um and I
Yeah,
wasn't very
just
happy.
before you just, I want to underscore that because that's really important. I want to bring this to the attention of our audience members, if you don't mind. We'll of
No.
course we'll consider continue, but as a musician, it was the same thing. How did I sound? How did I play? How did I sound better than that person? I mean, my solitaire in your head in this whole thing. And then when I finally had an accident with my hand and had to leave it all behind, that was fate intervening, as I believe you're going to tell us how fate intervened with you, right?
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to say one thing when that teacher said to you that you're going to play the big roles, honey, you're playing the biggest role there is.
Well,
So
I
forgive
mean,
me for interfering, and but I
no.
wanted to, you know, riff on that for a bit.
Well, and I mean, in a way, what I came to understand is that we're all of us, when we're living only focused on ourselves,
Yep.
we're living in a kind of hell
Yeah.
because it's never okay. It's never okay inside, or if it is okay, it's only temporary, and you're waiting, for when it's not going to be okay again, right?
Exactly.
There are so many threats to the ego when you're living from that space primarily, and no judgment whatsoever. I don't judge myself for the way that I was. I don't judge anybody else. We're
Yep.
all in a process. It's an evolutionary process, and
Exactly.
and I had to get, miserable and be aware of profound insecurity that plagued me every day, in order to evolve.
Yep.
That was how I was also, learning to evolve on the personal level and, eventually free myself from that the torment that we have when we are stuck in our minds too. That's the other thing, right? Being stuck in your mind. And you talked about being a musician and always, being focused on how do I sound? Am I okay? And I was a singer too.
Yep.
And I absolutely went through singing, try to sing for an audition was like facing a firing squad for me. I was such a perfectionist, and I was so, dialed in on every wobble, every sound, every nuance of my voice that it had no freedom to move. And then, I basically lost my voice for almost 20 years and couldn't go to a singing audition, couldn't do anything. I had such a this was after the death of my father too, when I was, in school, and I just shut down emotionally. I was really afraid. I was living with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of comparison, a lot of envy, a lot of jealousy, and then I would suppress all of it because I'm a nice person, I'm a good girl, and I'm a good friend, and I don't have any of those problems.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, so that's a lot of pressure to live under. You're hyper vigilant. Your nervous system is on alert all the time. And so I discovered Kundalini yoga as I was, I was still at Juilliard, but as I was graduating school and all that, I discovered Kundalini yoga at that time. And in a way, it really saved me because it was the first experience that I ever had of a relaxed nervous system that I could remember,
Mhm.
and it really, I experienced this high in class, and after class, I remember walking up Park Avenue because I would go to Kundalini Yoga East, in the Flatiron District, and walk 100 blocks, even more than that, up to where I was living in Fort Washington at the time, and I would float down the street, and I thought, oh, I found it. I found an answer here. This is how I'm gonna, calm down. This is how I'm going to expand my consciousness. And, I was really drawn to study deeply even at the time. But another part of me was hesitant to do it because I knew it would pull me away from my life as an actor. And, my ego couldn't handle that at the time, I had a lot of smoke blown up me and told,
Mhm.
what I was going to be and who I was going to be and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
you know anyway, I ended up meeting a teacher accidentally on purpose, in as part of a yoga training years later, and this was after a lot of discontent and kind of just general morass of negativity that I kept hidden, but it was inside me, and I just knew something had to change. I had a bad case of frozen shoulder in 2012,
Mhm.
which was a year for a lot of us where it was like, okay,
Oh yeah.
you better decide where you're going. And like I couldn't move. I mean, it was such a painful case of frozen shoulder. And I was teaching movement. I'm a mover. I'm a yogi. I'm a like, and I'm like, what is this? I can't move my shoulder. I couldn't even reach anything on a high shelf, and my hand would shake, and I couldn't put my hand on my hip. I couldn't, I mean, it was just like awful. And there was no explanation for it. There was nothing on the scan. There was, it was like, what is this? That's the heart. The heart is
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
big time message from the body saying,
Yeah.
hey, look at yourself, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up at a training, a Kundalini yoga training, because I had decided that was what saved me from frozen shoulder, actually, was Kundalini yoga. Once again, I found it again. I got back into the loop, and when I started doing yoga again and breathing and moving, suddenly this thing that didn't budge for a year and a half and that really limited what I could do, just began to evaporate. So again, I thought, oh, here, this is the answer. This is the answer. So I determined I was going to go get trained and, teach it and all of this stuff. And I did. And I threw myself into that world
Mm.
100%. I was still in the show business, but, I was really like developing something.
Mm.
And I went and got my teacher training in India and all that stuff. It was an amazing experience. And then I started the second level of training to be able to train teachers. And that
Mm,
was when I met this great master in France. And that totally turned my life upside down. And I ended
mm,
up leaving a season of Stratford, which was something I'd never done before. And I mean, I'd never ever pulled out of a contract. Like that was just not
mm,
something I would do. And it took a lot of courage to name that I was more interested in this personal inward spiritual growth than I was in being on stage for the first time in my life.
that must have been terrifying and wonderful at the same time.
It was the beginning of a very long, dark, difficult, dark night of the soul, difficult period. I didn't see that at the time. Again, I was like, I found the
Yeah.
answer. Because the mind wants to find a solution and oh, this is what's going to make everything okay. But that's not how it goes. When you do spiritual work, when you really, start to get serious about that, and when I say serious, I don't mean like, the furrowed brow serious, but when you're really dedicated to that, you're dedicated to going deep in yourself, then, there be dragons. That's where you're going to meet all the stuff that is unresolved, all the stuff that you have avoided for your entire life and developed every tactic and every strategy to avoid so you can keep looking good to yourself and to the world. All of that stuff, all of your masks, all of your hiding, all of your shame, all of your pretending, all of your glamour, all of that stuff, you're going to have to confront it sooner or later. And you suffer to the degree that you resist that
Yeah.
encounter, which I definitely did, even though I was consciously working on it.
Mm,
Um, I was still in a very like mind approach, mental approach, and working through trying to achieve something through Kundalini awakening, which I thought was what awakening was. And it wasn't until years later that I understood, oh, okay, that what I confused illumination and enlightenment with high spiritual states brought on by stimulation of the pineal gland and entry into an extension of the matrix that we're here on Earth
mhm,
in the realms of light, and it is very impressive, and it is very you know um, sensational as an experience, and it also taught me. It did. I learned a great deal from it. But when I was having experiences like that, there was still a lot of stuff about me that I hadn't actually faced.
mm,
So um, I eventually understood that what I thought was awakening was was just well, not just. It was let me put it this way. What I've experienced since as awakening has much more to do with simple, straightforward seeing through of falsehood and correction of perception and connection to the heart in a very simple way. That, the real awakening was awakening to the nature of reality itself, here and now, and through the heart. And it only happened when I stopped lying to myself and stopped trying to avoid my own shadow, trying to make it look a little nicer.
mhm,
It only happened when I became transparent, vulnerable, open, and was willing to be seen in the true light of all of my faults and it took a
Mhm.
long time for me to get there.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and if I can just interject, the um the overarching field that you project through your beautiful process and choice to embrace the self and to delve into the depths of your being. There's nothing simple about it. It is the most difficult path that anyone can possibly embark upon. Not only is it is I would say in your case, it's not just a choice, it is a natural unfolding of the magnificence and the magnitude of the original being that you are, the energy that you carry, that you came here with to embody once again. And like I said, when we started out, the stage was way, even if it was a world stage and the best in the world, Shakespearean wise, it still wasn't big enough for you to shine the light that you needed to shine. So this embodiment of the heart and these beautiful principles that you have embodied now in your new work. Um, Tell us a little bit about, I mean, you've already described the transition of how it happened, but now more with a view to how that shines forth in the work that you're doing today. I'd
Yeah.
everyone to really get to know you as the incredible facilitator and guide that you are because of the path that you have described, that you have been courageous enough to take, and now are offering to hold space for others to do the same.
Well, thank you. It's funny to talk about the past because I don't really think about it that much anymore.
Mm,
Um, I think it's pretty simple, actually. It comes down to this for everybody, for
mm,
each and every one of us, that, the suffering we experience is a lot of it is self-created. Um, just because we haven't yet come to know who we really are, and who we really are is so far beyond anything that we've ever given ourselves credit for from the space of ego or persona.
mhm.
It's so far beyond anything we've ever imagined or been taught to dream of for ourselves.
Yeah.
The spiritual evolution process is a stripping away of everything that is false. And when you start to trust that process, it becomes wonderful because you realize that there's actually nothing in your being that you have to be afraid of.
Mm,
Absolutely nothing. That the quote unquote worst stuff about you is just a part of your experience
yep,
that was formed for a good reason.
yep.
And there's nothing to judge in anything that you are, anything that you have been, anything you've done or has been done to you, as awful as it might have been. It cannot stand up to the light of your presence, which is the truth of who you are. And so it becomes more and more of a joyful self rediscovery or remembrance, as I'm always using that word, remember,
Mm.
because there's nothing there's nothing new, right? We're just
No.
remembering who we really are, which is we've just forgotten about that because we've had that is the nature of the veil here. It's the nature of the amnesia that we agreed to experience in order to come here and have this experience. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So and the fact that we've had on top of that, layered many thousands of years of programming and perceptual manipulation, mind control, interference, distortion, that has twisted us, deformed us maybe from our original state, but that state is inviolate in the center of our being. It is incorruptible. It can never be touched, right? And the great power is to rediscover that, oh, that's true. That which I am really has never ever been touched, never can be touched. And you then start to access the real power, which is, coming through your heart and creating this toroidal
Mm-hmm.
biofield around you multidimensionally. And then you start to remember again your multidimensional nature. You start to relax into a deep state of trust in life, even when things look crazy and cockapoo on the outside, which nowadays they often do. And for a lot of people, and if you just look at the world stage, it's cuckoo time, right? So this is all the more reason why now, we've got to dig down into the earth, trust and relax. And I got to tell you, I mean, Renata, coming from, many, many years of spiritual study and having all different kinds of experiences, going to extremes, I've really gone to extremes in order to try to break myself open and, push myself into a higher state and all of this stuff. I discovered that actually it's really just so simple. It has nothing to do with all of that stuff. It's really just about relaxing.
Yeah,
Relaxing.
relaxing. And that brings me to the next question, um, which I'd love for you to speak about, and that is how we met. Actually, we met. Well, I think I've seen you a long time ago at Stratford, of course, but
Yeah.
I think we met there. I'm 99.9% sure we met there.
I know. So we had such a mutual recognition.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, "Ugh." And then we recently, you and I did some courses with our dear beloved George Kavasalis, who mentored to us both, and great, great being, and who shared his incredible teachings with us around the Kundalini, around the pineal, around the chakra system, the truth around all of those things that will shock most of the people. Just when you thought it was safe to get back in the water, you always think, da da
And you
da
realize that
da da
the new
da,
age
yeah,
is the
yeah.
new cage, right?
Ah,
Yeah.
shit. Right.
Yeah.
So, because you were saying, simple. And George, like we're all trying to push just like you are. Okay, I've got to get that. Gotta do this course, gotta do this, gotta. And then George is like, I just relax into your heart, like, Mike, relax into your heart, right?
I might. Yeah.
Mike.
Well, I mean, like the I the yearning, the deep desire to be free is where that impulse of mine came from, right? The impulse to bust out, I'm busting out of this
Yeah.
joint, like that was, but that came always from a deep, sincere, profound desire to taste the freedom that I know is mine, that I
Mhm.
know is my true nature, right?
Right.
I can get emotional just thinking about it, just like
Yeah.
feeling it. I'm like, right? And everybody has that.
Mhm.
Everybody who is going to listen to this, to anybody who has an interest in spirituality, you just all you care about really when you tune into it is that you're free. You know that your nature is freedom, that your nature is unlimited, that you are unlimited, and you just can't stand the being bound and limited and constrained any longer. right?
exactly.
That's where it's coming from. That is a beautiful impulse. It's this impulse that makes you want to scream, you want to jump out, you want to fly, you want to like you do in your dreams, when you're like, I know I can fly. And how many times, I don't know, this is a funny thing, but like I've so many times that when I've dreamed that I'm
Oh
flying,
yeah,
because I consciously levitate and
yeah,
I consciously fly and take off, and I'm like, Claire, you know how to do this.
yes.
Remember when you're awake, it's so easy. Just do it,
What's the big
right?
deal? What's the big
Well,
whoop?
that's who we are, right? We are that freedom. We are that. So, however, whatever path people take to try to find that freedom again, to remember who you are is valid. It is valid. I don't look back on the path that I took and how messed up I was and how much of a mess I made everywhere. I don't look back on that with scorn. I look back on that with gratitude and respect for how far I was willing to go and how desperately I wanted to be free, because I consider that to be, that was maybe a 3D uh, expression of the knowingness that we all have, that we are sovereign beings and nobody can put us down. Nobody can rule over us, that we are creator beings and fractal expressions of source as human beings. That's what we are, right?
Exactly, exactly,
So
exactly.
the rebelliousness, there's this rebelliousness in me that is free to express itself now, which is it's not a destructive rebelliousness. It's a a feeling of righteousness that says, no, I am no longer ever going to allow myself to put myself down.
Mhm.
I'm not going to allow myself to belittle myself, make myself small, because that voice that we have inside that tells us we're nothing, we're not good enough,
Yeah,
we're lacking something, blah blah blah, all of that. That is a conditioned voice. That is not part of our true nature. We are not inadequate. We are not sinful. We are not helpless and hopeless and a plague on this planet, and everything that we have been taught and told that
none
we
of
are.
those things.
Not true.
None of those things.
So that's where, I think the spark and the impulse for a lot of my work comes from that, the awakening of that remembrance in me, which was, oh, I can't believe how much we've been put down and how much we've been suppressed and ruled over and told how bad we are.
Hmm.
That is just a massive psyop, and it comes in many forms, and it also works through the new age, right?
New
With
Cage.
maintaining hierarchy and maintaining this idea that you have to climb a ladder to get somewhere and you have to be worthy of it, just in a different way, right? So I, when I grew up, I just intuitively knew that the religious psyop was not for me. I never believed it. I didn't have a problem with it. I was never in conflict with it. I didn't rebel against it. I just didn't get me. But I did get caught in the new cage, the new age cage. And turn around in the labyrinth there for a long period of time before something in me just knew again
Yeah.
that this isn't real. Something in here isn't real, and I'm real. Something in me is real. How can I find that again? And that was when, I was kind of withdrawing all of this energy that I had put into, getting better at, you know,
Mm.
tuning up my chakras and stuff like that, and, trying to blast through with Kundalini energy and all of that stuff. I just kind of like, my whole body was like, back away from that, and return to the simplicity of the heart
Mm.
and just trying to feel my heart.
Mm.
Because, I mean, I don't know if you ever felt this way, or you've probably met a lot of people who, are really good people, but they're still the heart has been bypassed somehow,
Mhm.
right? And I started to become aware that, our heart has been, the human heart has been the subject of a lot of attack.
Mhm.
They've tried to separate us from our heart, and because our heart is our portal, it's our
Mhm.
main portal to
Yep.
source, not the chakra. The deep heart, is the one center.
Yep.
And all of that was kind of percolating in me, and I was starting to remember that when I intersected with George,
Yep.
and you, and I'm sure that because I was, finally starting to remember that, boom, that's when you become aware of somebody like George, who
Mhm.
is, the tip of the spear
Yep.
in in bringing down that layer of psyop that so many seekers are caught up in.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the it's the separateness and the duality and the self-identification that has been embedded in the mirror reality that has taken everyone away, that's intentional, away from the heart center where there is the unification. So they had to do that. This was part of the agenda. Of course we created this agenda too. We're all part and parcel of this great experiment, this great expansion and contraction back into the truth of who we are. There's no blame really that I'm placing on anyone when I say they created it. We are the they. They are
Yeah.
the we, right? It's all the same freaking thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I figured this is a perfect time to segue into, because you were talking so much about the freedom and wanting to be that freedom. And then, of course, the next thing when you discover that freedom for yourself is you want to share it with everyone. And that's, this, no, come on, you can do this. Come on, you can do this, right? You can be free too, right? Which is why you've moved into being this incredible facilitator that you are. And so at this time, I wanted to um, announce to everyone that Claire has agreed to be the voice for Free Me Portal. How appropriate is that? How absolutely perfect is that? And I couldn't be more thrilled. And I'm so excited to work with Claire. She's going to be, not only is she going to be the voice for Free Me Portal, but obviously her facilitation is reflected there. You can see her page on the website. But I'm so excited to welcome you to this um, undertaking, Claire. I can't begin to tell you. It was divinely inspired in me, and I'm sure that part of that was knowing that you were there to come on board. And um so part of the gift that came along with that, of course, I was a little like, oh, how am I going to do this? Yeah, okay. But part of that gift was having the trust to know that if I'm going to be given this great responsibility, then I'm also going to be given the means to help bring it about. And you are a main catalyst for that. So I
Mhm.
want to publicly welcome you and thank you. And um, so yeah, so tell us how did that happen? Like, I mean, you reached out to me and you wanted to be part of it, and this has just evolved since then. So go ahead, tell us about how you found Free Me.
Well, I mean, I found Free Me through you, and thank you for everything you just shared. I'm really touched, and I mean, that's a dream for me, right? To be able to, I mean, first of all, to be in the presence of so many amazing facilitators, like people I
Mm,
really admire who are also facilitators in Free Me Portal. To be a spokesperson for it. I mean, that feels totally natural because I feel like I'm always a spokesperson for what Free Me represents. I mean, that's all I ever want to talk about. That's all. I'm ever interested in.
Yeah, it's you. It's
So,
you.
I
Yeah.
mean, because like you said, when you feel like, okay, I'm finally starting to remember, I'm finally starting to get it again, and by no means do I hold myself up as like some final authority who's at the top of a mountain, because there ain't no top of the mountain. We're all in an evolutionary process, so am I. I'm not ever saying I have all the answers. I've figured it all out. That day will never come.
No.
We're work in process. But you can always help someone when you've been through the path, when you have walked through the fire.
Hmm.
It's not from the mind anymore, right? It becomes embodied wisdom. And that's when you can actually be of service and help other people. And I gotta say, it's not just the enthusiasm that I have for the topic, it's the knowing that we're going towards a tipping point here. We
Yeah.
need everybody on board who is ready to let go of what isn't real and what isn't true anymore, who's ready to step out of the matrix, the imposition on our spirit, on our soul, on our light, on who we are, and the many forms that that takes. Anybody who is ready to do that, we need you. We need you. We need your light, right? And we're stronger together. This works, on a logarithmic scale, right? Because one person who is radiating light and may not even consciously know it, guys. I mean, this is another thing. Like, j there are remarkable people in this world who are extremely awake and who are radiating a powerful energy. Some of them you'll see, some of them you will never see, right? And some of the people who are working with the grid here may not even be doing so consciously. They just by who they are are anchoring light, right? Everyone has a role to play in this awakening, because if you're here and if you're listening to this, you have a role to play in this awakening.
100%.
So, it's our invitation now, a loving invitation to let go of the shackles, right? To free ourselves. And I love what you said, Renata, about free me portal. It's not like, oh, please free me. It
No,
is
no.
free me.
Yeah.
I am already free,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
Free me. And this is the portal to the free me, which is already who we are, right? We just keep forgetting it over and over again. So is this something that we need to all remind ourselves, because we're all divine mirrors of one another. So when I'm facilitating or when I'm working with somebody as a mentor, as a guide, I never ever consider that I am, more advanced than somebody else. We're in a co-creative relationship. When somebody comes to work with me, I'm aware because it's been shown to me over and over again. I'm aware that they are a mirror for me too.
Yeah.
That it is a symbiotic, it is a symbiosis, and it's divinely guided, divinely inspired. And one thing that I is so humbling and so beautiful with every person that I meet, every person that I've ever worked with, and it's in the hundreds, I have always been able to see how that person is divinely guided. I've always been able to, it's so obvious from my perspective.
Mm.
Wow, how this happened and then this happened and then this happened. And they may
Mhm.
be looking on it as, the narrative of a sad story that they've had to live. And they have gone through a great deal and they have suffered. Yes, that's true on one level. On another level, you see what they've become and what they are becoming and what they are willing to face. Because I mean, the work that I do is about facing that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But in an environment that is held and safe and expansive, that courage that it takes to see the shadow, to embrace the shadow, to integrate it and to realize that it was just a shadow, and once it's illuminated, it doesn't have any power anymore as shadow.
Mhm.
That is the whole story right there. That is the whole archetypal hero's journey right there. And everybody is on this journey. Everybody is on it.
Yeah.
There's not one person who is higher or lower, or there is no hierarchy because we're all creator beings.
Yeah.
We're all infinite creator beings.
Exactly. And you can realize that now or realize it later. That's the only choice you have, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually, guess what? That's where you're going, you know? And so free me is it's also for those who are just curious about awakening. It's like, okay, well, something doesn't feel right. What is it, and so this is where anyone can come if you're starting to, I mean, typically people who are, who are gravitating towards, this channel and your channel have already done a significant amount of work, but Free Me is also for, when I was starting getting this idea with Dr. Andrea Martin,
Mm.
during the time I was doing the course with George, we were talking about the star seeds and the plight of the starseeds envoys, of both of whom you and I are, and basically how these 2.5 million of us here on the planet, if we actually all awakened, it would be game over. There would be no more duality. It just wouldn't, it just couldn't function. The critical mass would shift. So of course there is divine timing and everything. However, I really felt that this was a cause that was worth fighting for.
Oh,
And
well,
yeah,
yeah, because we're
100%.
all part of the timing. I mean, we are the creators, so we're determining the timing, right? Because it's so we gotta like kind of. I have to always remind myself to get out of that mentality, like, well, it's just happening, and
Yeah,
and I'm passive. No,
yeah,
I mean, it is happening, but it's happening because we are determining it. We are
that's right.
deciding. We are putting ourselves on the timelines that we're on. And yes, our greater being is in charge. Yes, our greater being is running the show. But it's, I don't know, it's a mystery. It seems like a contradiction, and yet it isn't. It all makes sense. Even me down here, with my, let's say, perceptual limitations of this moment,
Mhm.
um, I'm still somehow aware uh, of my multidimensionality, and I can be in a state of trust about that without knowing what the next move is. And because I know that it's, my greater being is in charge, and yet I also have a part to play here. I have to
Mhm.
say yes,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm speaking for all of us, right? We all have our role in this awakening. And I think you've done a beautiful job in the Free Me portal, making it fun. Well, and this is like the moment that I want to talk about, where when you started talking about the
Mhm.
the the Free Me portal and what you were creating on a call with our whole community. And I
Mhm.
mean, I listened to Renata and I literally feel my hands started shaking. I got so excited. I was like, she's creating what? And she said, and we're looking for people out there who are working with people who'd like to be
Mhm.
facilitators and all of that. I was like, could not get to my email fast enough to send you a message to be like, oh, I'm so on board with this. What can I do? Because I had been working for months before meeting you, before being involved with George's community, all that. I had been
Mhm.
working for months on creating new programs,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
just were like, I mean, like they just like came through me. My direction felt so clear. I had shed so much that, the direction of how I can serve, became much clearer to
Mhm.
me. And, like with a laser focus, I just started creating programs because I love to create programs. I love to create roadmaps for people, like how can we find our way through? How can we, find a roadmap that is going to help us, keep the mind busy while the soul is doing its work, you know?
Yes, yes.
And so I felt like I'd already created programs like what you were describing.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so that was how I sort of, banged on your door.
Yeah. Well, and you don't know on the other side of, when I got your message, it was like, yes. The facade behind the email, right? It's like, yes, 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 she's on board, right? Do a little victory dance, do the little dance there. Well, alrighty. So I am so excited, and we're going to, brainstorm and talk about how this is all going to happen. And I knew it wasn't really going to take off until the beginning of the new year. So this is perfect timing, and so be it, and so it is, and let this unfold. And yes, my puppies are having a moment here. They're happy too. You see, I get so happy, they have to get happy. Everybody's happy. So I just want to talk before we wind things up. I want to talk about the gray space and all the
Mm.
wonderful work you've been doing there, and how that's going to also all be part and parcel of the offerings that we have at Freemead Portal. So tell us more about the gray space.
Yeah, thank you. Well, The Gray Space is my podcast, and hard to believe that I'm entering season 6 of this podcast, which really started as a way to give back, kind of a teaching vehicle for me at the beginning, years ago, when I was a coach, I was a mentor, I was working in that capacity, and my understanding has evolved a great deal. Like many people over the last 5 years, has been such a crucible. I mean, it's just been such a massive acceleration in awakening, and I think that that's reflected in my podcast, and this year, this season coming up is going to be a lot of interviews, and it's a curated space, right? So I've been considering, how do I shape this season, because it's not just an ongoing podcast. Like a lot of people have just an ongoing podcast.
Hmm, hmm.
Mine has been in seasons because I don't know why. I half the time I don't even know what's going on with the podcast. I feel like my higher self does the podcast and I get to sort of participate in it. But this year will be a lot of interviews with some solo episodes where I'm going to reflect on some of the things that we're talking about in these interviews, because I've logged a good many of them.
Mm,
And there's a lot of
value there.
really, yeah, deep material.
Yep.
And so I'm going to be periodically reflecting on those as well. Last season was mostly me on my own, gathering the courage. I think one of the things that people seem to like about the Grace Space is that I've been pretty honest, pretty open about my own life and what I've been going through. When I first started the podcast, I never talked about myself. I was like, well, nobody's interested in my stupid stuff. I mean, like, who cares? And but I got feedback from time to time when I would share a personal story, which was rare. A bunch of people would be like, that was so amazing when you talked about blah, 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 blah. It would be great. You should do that more. And I was like, really? I don't know. Okay. So I did start to share more. And the more I shared about, my own trials and tribs and realizations and amazing things that happened, and the more of a response there was. So I allowed that to start to come more to the forefront. And I've been through amazing changes in the
Mhm.
last 5 years. Basically everything that I built and created in my life, disintegrated and disappeared, or changed form in a miraculous way. And I consider that to be one of the most beautiful periods of my life, was this period of dissolution, stripping away and shedding of everything that was created from a place of the persona and the mask, and so I think it's pretty evident for people who've been listening to the gray space since the beginning, that evolution has occurred. And so this year is going to be, is really feels like a new octave taking off. And I've been privileged to have interviews with some amazing, amazing people. Renata's one of them, and to also inaugurate a brand new YouTube channel, which is coming.
Mm,
So, yeah, yeah. And that's been, to be honest, that's been also about me having the courage to be more visible, to
mm,
put myself out there more, because I had a lot of inner conflict about doing that. What with coming from show business and all of that stuff,
yeah,
I was really careful. I was like, I didn't want to do that from a space of, look at me, I'm on stage again.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just, and so I had to work out my own inner conflicts around that, before I felt like I'm stepping out authentically, and I'm gonna speak speak truth, not hide,
mm,
and be congruent in thought, word, and deed, no matter what people say, no matter what people think of me, no matter what my family thinks or my longtime friends, how they may perceive that. That has taken me some time to come around to as well. So I hope that in being honest and transparent about my own struggles and my own foibles and fears, that we can all just admit that we have them, and that it's okay.
and get over it.
Uh,
You know,
yeah,
get over it.
and like, we make a mess sometimes, and it's
Okay.
okay. It really is okay at
Yeah,
the end of the day.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
100%. It's like
yeah.
Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck. We're here to ruin ourselves. We're here to make a mess, right? We're here to do all of those things that everybody says we're not supposed to do, right? I love that. I love that movie. Always did.
Well,
Um,
and once we've made a mess, we
yeah.
can also clean it up. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah. And then you're better for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just about wanton destruction.
No.
I mean, I know that, but like I just want to speak to that, because like I in the places where I've made a mess, I've really tried to clean up what I could, what was mine to clean up, and not to sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just, we're all human. We're all human, and we're all divine. We're all human, and we're all dealing with, what it is to be human at this moment. And that might mean something different in a couple of years, but what we're dealing with right now is what it is to be human in this moment, and at the same time to be an infinite being, an infinite creator being beyond this universe at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. Not
It's the
only that, but
divine
I know
paradox.
what you were talking about in terms of the YouTube channel, etc. And I just want to touch on that before we end off. And that is the struggle that I feel I have the same struggle coming from a television background. Um, you don't want to step now that we've done all this work to become the authentic self. I mean, we've really done a lot of work and stepped back and become invisible for a long, long, long time. And the truth is that the medium, the social media platform, etc., that is not an authentic venue. It's not an authentic space, right? It's full of garbage and pitfalls and you can't even speak the truth really for getting kicked off of it, but which we work our way around as best we can. But I feel you because it's trying to bring authenticity to a medium that in itself is grossly manipulated and inauthentic is extremely challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's a dance, it's a
Yeah.
balancing act to bring yourself to it without any pretense, and to um Yeah, because it's just full of pitfalls,
Yeah, it is.
and the algorithm and all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Do I want to?
Whatever. I mean, we
Yeah.
just do the best we can.
Exactly. We do the best we can. We smile through it. We laugh through it. And, we have to make some, concessions and compromises. But because the bottom line is we do want to bring this message. But honestly, I think, and I feel more than I think that your presence, especially with Free Me and all of the things that you're teaching, cannot help but in itself shine the light that is required for those to see. It may not even be the words that you speak, it may not even be the way that we put together an Instagram commercial or something, but it's going to be, that light is going to be there because you are that light already, Claire. So, you
Well,
know
I mean, that's true for all of us, isn't it? I mean, like the reason that you follow somebody online or on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, it sometimes has nothing to do with what you might think, you know. It's just there's you need what you need when you need it, you know. You need to be exposed to somebody's energy when you need to for a period of time. It's like nourishment, you know, and that goes beyond the algorithm. And at the end of the day, their higher order shines through everything. And you know, whatever we're dealing with in terms of, you know, control, systems of control over media and social
mhm,
media and all of that stuff,
mhm,
yeah, okay, it's a reality. We're not going to deny that or do a spiritual bypass around it, but you know, it's not forever. And everything is always about resonance and frequency. So you know, I think as long as we're aligned and authentic that way, then you know, the people who need to find you, and you find the people that you need to find.
so be it, and so it is. And so let's just wind up. I want you to just speak about the courses and the offerings that you particularly have. And of course, you had already created one about stepping out of the matrix before. So we were probably doing that at the same time, you know. But
Yeah.
now that I think about it, we were probably cooking that up at the same time.
Yeah, well, there was a wave, right, going through consciousness. So, well, first of all, the podcast is a way that people can connect with me. Podcast is, you know, released once a week and on Fridays, and it's called The Grace Space.
Mhm.
You can find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, also on my website, which is clairelautier.com. And all the usual places, basically. And on the Free Me portal, you'll see two courses. One is called Exit the Matrix. That is about spiritual sovereignty. It's a 3-month program. The other one is a 6-month health sovereignty program called Return to Radiance. Both of those, well, actually, all of my courses are evergreen courses, so that means you can pick them up and do them anytime you want independently, or if you want a guide, a mentor through the process, you can work with me privately and or also in groups. I work with groups and I work with one-on-one clients still for now. And so that is those are two approaches to sovereignty, but through two different lenses.
Mm,
Yeah, Exit the Matrix is more about learning about the nature of reality and all the ways in which our sovereignty has been imposed upon, right? And how to, in very simple ways, just let that go and see true through all of that,
mm,
see what's actually going on.
mhm.
Um, I've gotten great feedback about that program. The other program, Return to Radiance, is about health sovereignty. It's about learning to trust your body again, realizing that your body is always healing itself if you don't get in the way. It's about re-empowering yourself, right? Bringing your power back to you, the power to heal back where it belongs, which is in you, because we all have the power to heal, right? And we've very often given that power away to authorities, you know, and so it's turning things back right side up, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it. The main themes that I work with are sovereignty, simplicity, and sacred return, which is remembering the truth of who we are. So those programs are roadmaps to help you do that. One is through the lens of holistic health, and one is through the lens of spiritual sovereignty.
Mm.
Yeah, and aside from that, I do a live on Instagram every week on Mondays at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Is that right? Yeah. No, at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Sorry. My time zones are all messed up.
Uh, yeah.
1 o'clock Eastern, Instagram Live. And I just do a little teaching on whatever teaching, sharing
Teaching,
and
learning, teaching, learning.
exploration. Yeah. The it's the initiative is called We Need to Talk. So these
Mm,
are all things that I feel like we need to talk about, right? Maybe because they're things that I have hesitated talking about, right? So it's about just putting some things out there gently and kindly. And I think this is, I'll say, like, this is important to me, right? What's important to me is to be able to talk about things that tend to polarize people,
mm,
and to be able to hold subtlety and hold nuance, and look at things that are hard to look at, or triggering or polarizing, to look at them kindly and gently, because I think we have the capacity to do that, and we're much more likely to be able to get our heads around some of the shocking things that are being revealed and that are going to continue to be revealed as time goes on. Um, and to get our head around the actual nature of reality, instead of the engineered version of reality that we have been
mm.
sold.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
as shocked as anybody else. I mean, it took me a long time to accept a lot of things. And so, again, I think that's where I come in to try to be a bridge for people who are waking up now. I mean, this is big waves of awakening coming,
Yeah.
this year
Oh,
in
yeah.
26. And,
Yeah.
so I can sort of help people see things that are shocking or confronting, without disintegrating. Yeah.
Well, that is a real gift and talent to be able to hold space that way. And you are brilliant at it. I've watched you do it in group settings, and I have to say that yeah, you truly do shine. And your advocacy for the earth and for sovereignty of our beloved Christus Sophia is exemplary. And so it's I just want everybody to know it's not just on personal things that Claire talks about in her podcast, but also about more global issues. So if you're interested in that, that's the place to be as well. So Claire, thank you. Wonderful and amazing, Claire, for your clarity, your integrity, and above all else, your courage. And thank you for being with us here today. It's been a real privilege to share this space with you.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you
Mm,
for sharing your audience with me, and yeah, thank you for everything that you're doing and creating. And it's such a privilege, and a pleasure. Plus, we have a lot of fun. I got to say, we have a
oh
lot
yeah.
of laughs. Yeah, I'm just it's very gratifying to be part of your community as well, and I look forward to all the work that we're going to do together and help people exit the matrix and remember their true nature and their true freedom.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you, Claire. So be it, and so it is. So, to our audience, please remember to like and subscribe, and please share this interview with anyone you feel may benefit from its content, and perhaps even more from Claire's amazing mentorship courses. So, please also take a moment to visit freemeportal.com, explore the site. It's pretty fun. There's a deep explanatory video on the first page if you're curious, offerings from other facilitators, and a free video library that we're building over time with fascinating interviews such as today's incredible interview with Claire Lautier, and other helpful information and informative content to help you be free in every sense of the word. So until next time, May you stay present, trust your inner knowing, and let your own grace space quietly guide the way. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.